Dube, please. Tumpigie makofi as he comes.
Africa is not an American or European or Chinese property. Africa is not a satellite continent of the West. Africa is not a dumping site of the Western countries. Africa will never remain an African property. Africa should be led by Africans who should decide the fate of Africa independently without external forces. We are not Africans by mistake or default. We are Africans by God's decision. God decisively created Africa the same way He purposely created America, Europe, and Asia. Hence, we are all equal before God. No continent was given the purpose of being prefects and monitors of Africa. Americans and Europeans have their own issues to solve. Russia-Ukraine war is tertiary to Africa. We have Boko Haram in Nigeria, Taliban, civil wars in Ethiopia, Mozambique, Somalia, and Sudan, now in Niger. The conflicts need Africans to amicably solve them without non-Africans involved. African peace settlement talks must not be held outside African soil, presided by Africans. The West's everyday interest in African affairs is questionable and worrisome. We have suffered a lot from America and European brutality and tyranny, slavery, imperialism, capitalism, exploitation, colonization, neo-colonization, now into modern-day slavery and mental therapy. As Africa, we need important permanent peace. We want a sovereign state continent free from Western influence. Africans should not be told by Americans on who to vote for. Europeans must not choose African leaders. Africans should choose their leaders without external influence. Africans have never told Americans and Europeans on who to vote for. We respect their democratic freedom and decisions as Africans. African democracy must not be described by the Westerners. African independence must not be declared by the West. African human rights must not be imposed, detected, declared, and assessed and approved by Westerners. They abducted our leaders, killed them, and displayed their skulls in their museum to generate income for the next generation. They have more gold than us, but they don't have gold mines anymore. A clear evidence and exhibit of corruption, fraud, disrespect, defamation of character, undermining African authority, unlawful entry, theft, robbery, and murder. Westerners must not tell Africans on how to use their resources. We don't make in their own affairs. They should not infringe in African affairs. We are a sovereign state. Africa should honor her legends, influencers, heroes, and heroines. Africa should write her own history. Africans should equally benefit from African natural resources. We are a sovereign continent. We need our sovereignty unconditionally. They mined and exhausted their own mines. Now they tell us on how to mine our coal in the name of climate change. Yes, climate change should be a pertinent topic to be transparently discussed, not used as a tool for exploitation and hidden self-centered gains. They hunted their own wild animals for luxury. Now they tell us on how to handle our own wild animals. In the name of animal abuse, we conserved our own wildlife to do what we want and when we want. We will decide on how to handle them without external influence. We are a sovereign continent. African problems must be dealt and solved by Africans only. Africans must have their own economic blueprint that will lead to Africa they want. Begging from our former colonial masters will always hinder African sovereignty. Investors from West are more than welcome in Africa. They should come to invest, not intervene in African politics, divide us to loot our resources. They should subscribe to our rules and regulations, not rulers. They should come as business people, not diplomatic political influencers. We are a sovereign state. Westerners are more than welcome in Africa. We'll always treat them like kings and kings. That's the same way they should treat Africans when they visit Western countries. When they are in Africa, we call them friends, investors, tourists giving them 5-star service. So should they do the same to Africans who visit the West, not treating us as baboons, monkeys, intruders, and suspects. They get visas upon arrival in Africa. We want the same done to us when we visit Western countries. Western media should respect African religion, culture, and privacy. Africa and the West both have homeless, unemployed youths. Every home has its own challenges. Western media must not be about African negative things only. We as Africans can no longer watch our culture being demonized by the West. We can no longer glorify and worship Western culture at the expense of our own African culture. No more hallucination, no more African cultural manipulation, no more dumping in Africa in the name of donations. Bilateral engagement that promotes transparent egalitarianism should be a priority. Looting of African resources by the West in the name of business investing in mega deals should immediately come to an end. Africa should remain a sovereign state. Africa should explicitly and unconditionally free like a hippopotamus in the water. African sovereignty should be composed and comprised of bona fide patriotic citizens and good leading, by example, leaders who are accountable, innovative, supportive, decisive, dedicated, focused, passionate, visionary, inspirational, open-minded, flexible, responsible, and dependable. No more Africans fleeing to seek refuge. No political victims in Africa. No more guns in Africa. Unity and peace in Africa. African children must now know Kwame Nkrumah before they know Moses, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, and John the Baptist. African youths must know Ali Ali, Raja Casablanca, TP Mazembe, Orlando Pirates before they know Arsenal, Manchester United, Barcelona, and Real Madrid. Before Africans glorify Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, they should praise Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah, Thomas Partey, Osimhen, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Agriculture should be compulsory subject from early childhood development to tertiary institutions in Africa. We can't be speaking eloquent, fluent English, Portuguese, French, and Spanish when we are languishing in hunger and poverty. African Union, ECOWAS, and SADC summits should not be a shopping opportunity or a jamboree. We are a sovereign state. Africa should take back her children who are in Europe, America, and in the Caribbean. Africa's unsung heroes and heroines should be sung. African legends, heroes, and heroines' names should be sung in the African Union anthem. African Union's headquarters should have their portraits. We Africans always salute paid tributes to our legends and fallen heroes and heroines who are golden ancestors. Francis Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Kambarage Nyerere, John Pombe Magufuli the bulldozer, Jomo Kenyatta, Thomas Isidore Noel Sankara, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Samora Moses Machel, Tafari Makonnen Haile Selassie, Kenneth K.K. Kaunda, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, Joshua Mkabo Nyongolo Nkomo, Patrice Emery Lumumba, Marcus Mosiah Gevain, Amilcar Lopez da Costa Gabriel, Chinua Achebe, the father of African literature, Robert Mangaluso Sobukwe, Martin Tebisile Chris Hani, Nelson Rolihlahla Madiba Mandela, Unomzabo Popu Zanyiwe Madikizela Mandela, Miriam Mama Africa Makeba, Fela Anikulapo Kuti AK Abami Eta, Hu Ramaphosa Masiela, Lucky Philip Dube, Oliver Tukumtukutsi, George Town Mane Opong, Osman Way, Samuel Etofis, Austin J.J. Okocha, King Moshowe, King Sopuza, King Kama III, King Shaka Zulu. Africa needs leaders, not looters. African cancer called corruption should be permanently cured. Otto von Bismarck's demarcation of 1884 is against African sovereignty. We need our African unitary sovereignty unconditionally. Africa should be a sovereign state. One democratically elected leader for Africa, one currency for Africa, one borderless Africa. Africa should be free like a lion in the jungle. I am open to Dube, the African poet.
I need a bigger and better round of applause for Dube! I think that poem, or is it an ode, should be published and printed and engraved all over Africa. Do you agree with me? Yes. Africa must arise, Africa must sing her song, and Africa must speak to the world in very clear and categorical terms about how we want to live our lives as Africa. That's how we do it in in Kianjai, Africa. Dube, I hope you have something else as captivating and scintillating up your sleeves. Thank you very much for that. Ebony, Dube, and Jerusha.
So we're going to do a performance. It was scheduled for later, but I don't want my brother to go without just thinking that I can only cook in our house He has only been thinking of me as maybe a chef, but it's good he sees me on stage. So with me is Robert Dube, Zimbabwe. Begin my quote. Robert Dube is a person from Zimbabwe and a friend. I'm Kananu Marete, Kenya. We are going to perform a poem, Africa. Last night, I dreamed of Amsterdam, Africa. Last night, I dreamed of borderless Africa. I dreamed of thriving Vitenge industries in Africa. I dreamed of brothers and sisters living in harmony. Salam! Salam! Salam, motherland Africa! Salam! Dube!
Izolo ngiphupe iphuphe lingamphathanga kahle ngaphaphetheka sengiphaphala. Ngiphupe ngisuke eKapa Dube ngawe la kwele Dube. Yebo umhlaba omuhle ovunileyo. Inyamazela zasendle bezijabula. Bonke omama labobaba beseqa bejabula. Ethi hiyo le iAfrika eyayifuna ngokhokho lokhokazi bethu.
Last night in Kenya, I saw spears and harrows turned into farming holes. Cotton, coffee, and tea industries steam. Last night, I saw smiles with sparkling white teeth from Sudan. Last night, brothers in Nigeria disowned Boko Haram and disarmed Boko Haram. Last night, I saw Syrian, Somali soldiering on building Al-Shabaab ruins. Salam! Salam! Salam, motherland Africa! Salam!
Lili lizulu abaningi bahlanyela ihlanyelo yahlanyelwa yakhula yavuthwa abavuna abantu abasutha. Bekungekho umuntu olambayo kule liyalizwe. Bekungekho umuntu ongasebenziyo ezisebenza. Bekuphilwa kamnandi. Injabulo imibhalo ekuseni beseqa bethokoza omama labobaba abafowethu labodadewethu. Bathi yiyo le iAfrika eyayifuna ngokhokho nabokhokhokazi bethu.
Last night, black trader bought jewelry from Djibouti. Last night, black trader bought oils and perfume from Tunisia. Last night, black trader sold exquisite African fabric from Dakar. Last night, black trader sold beautiful baskets from Zimbabwe. Last night in Ghana market drive. Salam, 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 my motherland Africa. Salam.
Imifula yonke amaqinizilwazi imigelo lemigodi igcwele ngamanzi. Bekulomongameli oyedwa owentando yabaningi obethande khethwe ngabantu. Bekule mali eyodwa ibisebenza lonke ilizwe. Abantu bonke bebephelezile njengokuqakide nxa uqhelekile. Lesiseqa sijabula sikholisa. Sithi Afrika esasilinde zonke insuku. Eyafela ngogogo labokhulu bethu seziyafika. Sathi yiyo le iAfrika eyayithingwa ngogogo labokhulu bethu.
Last night, Africa in unison echoed social cohesion. Last night in unison, Africa echoed political stability. Last night, South Africa was umbrella for all blacks in the rain. Last night, Ethiopia mourned Achalu Hundessa raising a white dove. Salam. Salam, motherland Africa. Please, motherland, salam.
Abantwana bonke abasuke eAfrika besiya ngaphandle baphendukile babuya bazoba ngabatshali izimali ezweni lakubo wonke umuntu obekhona bephila kamnandi bephila kakuhle bantu bonke abakhuluma zonke izindimi bephila kamnandi akekho umuntu obeqashwa ngokuhlanga akekho umuntu obeqashwa ngolimi akekho umuntu obeqashwa ngobulili bonke abantu abaphila abatsha nabadala nabaphila ngokukhubazeka bebekhululekile bejabule bephilile bathi yiyo le iAfrika eyayifuna ngabafowethu lodadewethu.
Last night, African leaders loved Africa. We loaned the West. Last night, Africa imported and exported within. Last night, African industries revived. We loaned the West. Last night, I saw one Africa. I saw one peace, loving our language and culture. Last night, corruption was hung. We sang freedom songs. Salam, 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 motherland Africa. Salam.
Ngijabulisileyo yanginikeza umdlandla lentshukutshu abantu abadala amakhetha behlezi ngaphansi abenwa izimpaba ngejabula wonke pholisa wanjabula phezulu labaphansi ngithe masengidukile sesiyadubela emansupeni kungekho lake lapho umatsheni akatshoni ngoba ubukhosi bomdabuko bebuyisele emandleni abo abantu bonke bejabulile ngathi lanxa ngiyahamba kogoqanya kwelamathonga ngizashiya abantu bethu besendijabuleni besemkhululekweni bejabule bethabile bethi Afrika yayifuna ngobaba labomama bethu isize yakini.
Last night night, PLO Lumumba reminded us modern slavery. We condemned the vestiges of slavery in Sudan and Libya. We paved paths for Pan-African and asked pertinent questions. Last night we asked why African conflicts are manufactured outside Africa. Last night I saw one Africa loving our language and culture. Salam, salam, salam my motherland Africa, salam.
Abantwana beAfrika babhale imibhalo yabala umhlaba wonke bathabadlala iqalambalo babuye bazodlala imidlalo yezenguqu labadlali bonke abachibuze baseAfrika baphendukile eAfrika bazozigqaja baziphenga ngeAfrika seqasa qolotsha njengamathole sithi Afrika esikade sithi nasifuna isize yafika namhlanje umuntu uze wazithanda ithendeliwe egumeni sathi yiyo le iAfrika esikade sifuna ukuthandana sithi mayibuye iAfrika mayibuye.
Today, Rise Africa, from the great W.E. Du Bois chant Rise, Marcus Garvey, Kwame Nkrumah, George Padmore, Leopold Sedar Senghor chant Rise, Nelson Mandela, George Padmore chant Rise, Aimee Césaire, Mwalimu Nyerere, Kenneth Kaunda, Nelson Mandela chant Rise, Gaddafi, Santara, everyone chant Rise. Africa, Rise Africa. Mark Dube, Miriam Makeba, from the melodies Echo Africa. Salam, salam motherland Africa, salam.
Imo betwa kwathi kumthemba othembayo ukuthi abhathwa kwandakasana makulanyeka kumthemba kaMuzansi usho bathandwa inkosi kuma phansi lifanele sokulapha isidangana kodwa ngediphi sibhalana njalo kwanda uyazi yashiya mabanga bazoba ngifeza kithi ochaza sifike makazi ophanda la
Do we have a wireless mic around? Aha. Okay, here we go.
There were no countries in Africa before colonization. They were states led by respected traditional leaders. Each state had its own language equally respected. There were no churches in Africa before colonization. We are Christians but worshiping God in our own African way. We had our own traditional weddings that were really divorced. There was no money in Africa before colonization. We lived a healthy quality life of our choice using barter trade. The Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885, when our skin color was not black but chocolate brown, Africa was partitioned. Not even one African leader was invited. They flocked into Africa, holding Bibles, taught us how to pray when they were looting our resources. Africa was colonized, our resources were taken from Africa, developing 9 African countries. We were tantalized, tortured, tossed and tormented. We were hanged, arrested and killed by non-Africans. We were slaves in Africa by non-Africans in our own homeland. Our forefathers stood up and fought. They were crossing Africa without visas, passports, yellow fever, vaccination and coronavirus vaccination. They wanted freedom, independence and democracy. We want back and got Africa. Where is African independence, if I may ask? African independence didn't come alone. It came with HIV, cancer, now COVID-19. Where is African independence, if I may ask? An African needs a passport to visit an African country. An African needs a visa to visit an African country. An African is going to a foreign Indian orphan country. An African is arrested in Africa, deported, assaulted by Africans, and taken to an African country. Where is African independence, if I may ask? An African is given 90 days to visit an African country. An African needs a study permit to start in an African country. An African needs a residential permit or an asylum to reside in an African country. Goods manufactured from African resources are unaffordable to Africans. Africans love speaking Spanish, English, and Portuguese at the expense of our own Bantu languages. When non-Africans are in Africa, we treat them like demigods. When they're in their own country, they treat us like suspects. When they're in Africa, we call them professional hunters, but we call ourselves poachers. Where is African independence, if I may ask? Who unitary state. Cry, my beloved Africa, until African leaders who are the puppet of the West are shamed, eliminated. Cry, my beloved Africa, until all Africans are united. Cry, my beloved Africa, until African culture is not demonized but glorified. Cry, my beloved Africa, until every African owns land. Cry, my beloved Africa, until all African languages are internationally recognized. Cry, my beloved Africa, until every African affords a decent meal. Cry, my beloved Africa, until education in Africa is for free. Cry, my beloved Africa, until every African has quality access to quality health. Cry, my beloved Africa, until there is a freedom of speech and freedom after speech in Africa. Cry, my beloved Africa, let the Lord be blessed. Bless Africa one day. I'm not a political poet, I'm a Pan-African poet. I don't apologize for what I say. I am an African poet. My name is Dube. Thank you so much for welcoming me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. With love all the way from Zimbabwe is Dube.